Trump also returned to his longtime punching bag, Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
I put an attorney general that never took control of the Justice Department, Jeff Sessions, never took control of the Justice Department. Even my enemies say that Jeff Sessions should have told you that he was going to recuse himself, and then you wouldn't have put him in. He took the job, and then he said, I'm going to recuse myself. I said, what kind of a man is this? And by the way, he was on the campaign. You know, the only reason I gave him the job because I felt loyalty.
For more, I'm joined by Connecticut Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, and Zerlina Maxwell, who's director of the progressive programming for Sirius XM Radio. Let me start with Peter Baker about the president's mindset right now. What is your reporting about? He's up at 1 o'clock in the morning tweeting in capital letters all this stuff. It seems to me odd that for any grown-up, I mean, he's in his 70s. He's up at 1 o'clock in the morning out there tweeting in capital letters. To whom? Who's he talking to and why at that time of the morning?
Yeah, no, it absolutely sort of evokes the memories of Nixon during Watergate talking to the paintings, right? You know, a president sort of caught alone in his house late at night, stewing over the troubles that are, have beset him, wondering what way out, you know, and it's very evocative, and it does suggest somebody who is stewing and very consumed with the troubles that are, afflicting people around him, and really kind of the walls closing in on him. Someday there will be a tell-all book that will give us a little bit of a better picture of last night. Last night could be the opening scene of the book. It sounds very, very, dramatic.
While you're on this, Peter, I want to get your thinking about what his biggest fear is right now, because is it sort of just a sense that everyone around him he had done business with, these interesting characters, all of them not unfamiliar with people who are flipping all the time? I mean, that's an amazing acknowledgement by the president. He knows all these people that flip to save themselves before federal charges or state charges. He knows people like this. He does business with people like this. I'm going to get to this the rest of the show. Why does he pick people like Cohen to do business with, people like Manafort to do business with? They're flippable because they've all been vulnerable to federal charges that they would be forced to deal with and go after him. He ends up being the fall guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He promised he would have only the best people around him. And, so far we've seen, 7, I think, convictions and guilty pleas so far among people who were pretty important to him. Michael Cohen was not just sort of a random person plucked off the street, not a coffee boy, as they dismissed George Papadopoulos. This is somebody who worked with him for years. Paul Manafort was put in charge of his campaign. Michael Flynn was his national security advisor. These are really important figures in him. Now, did they, implicate him, the president, directly in something? Michael Cohen does. Most of the rest don't. But we don't know what Robert Mueller knows. And that's the really interesting thing. We heard today that David Pecker, the head of the American media conglomerate that owns the National Enquirer, is now cooperating, has an immunity deal with the prosecutors. That's part of the scheme that had been put in place to kill stories about women who were claiming affairs with the president before the election. So the prosecutors now have testimony, presumably from him, about how that worked. So the president's, sitting there up at 1 o'clock in the morning, watching all of these pieces fall in the wall that he had surrounded himself with.
And at 1 o'clock in the morning, he's still cursing Jeff Sessions, the AG, who doesn't play ball with him. Anyway, Sessions pushed back today on the president's latest attacks on him, among them that he didn't take control of the Justice Department. Sessions wrote, I took control of the Department of Justice the day I was sworn in, which is why we have had an unprecedented success in effectuating the president's agenda. While I am Attorney General, the actions of the Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations. But South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham told reporters today he expects Trump will fire Sessions after this fall's midterm elections. Let's watch this.
The president's entitled to attorney general he has faith in, somebody that's qualified for the job. Clearly, Attorney General Sessions doesn't have the confidence of the president. And all I can say is that I have a lot of respect for the attorney general, but that's an important office in the country. And after the election, I think there will be some serious discussions about a new attorney general.
Well, it seems to me, Senator Blumenthal, that's a agreed upon time for a Saturday night massacre. In other words, we're going to get rid of this prosecution by getting rid of the attorney general, who will then grab charge of it all. And that new person, whether it's Rudy Giuliani, whoever I foist in there, is going to do what I want. I'll be free.
That knocking sound you hear is the special counsel at the White House door. The White House is looking increasingly like a criminal enterprise, and of course, the president is flailing and failing. And that's why there is this talk about firing the Attorney General, which would be a path and prelude to firing the special counsel, but equally threatening to fire the Deputy Attorney General, who ultimately right now is responsible for this investigation. And that John Donne poem that you began with, No Man is an Island, ends with the call that the bell tolls for thee. Ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. It tolls for my Republican colleagues to stand up and shake themselves out of this moral stupor and abandon the purposeful inertia that is giving the president solace as he goes down this increasingly belligerent and bullying and unhinged path.
Zerlina, we have two political parties, and I know you're not formally associated with the Democratic Party. You're not here to speak for them, but we've got two political parties, and one is not talking, the Republican Party. They're saying nothing. In fact, Lindsey Graham is basically enabling this president to fire this AG and get control of the operation. The president said, I could take control of the prosecution of me. He said that just this week. What are the Democrats going to do? Should they be talking impeachment now, finally, after all this action of this week?
If you had asked me that a few months back, Chris, I would have said no, that Democrats should hold off on talking about impeachment because we need to see all of the facts. And I still think that we need to see all of the facts, but I think Tuesday changed things fundamentally in this country. The president was implicated directly in a criminal conspiracy in court under oath, and that is something that has never happened before in this country in terms of a crime that goes to the the legitimacy of his election, right? It's at the core of his election. It's something that made it more possible for him to be elected by hiding salacious details about alleged affairs. And so I think that Democrats can start talking about impeachment, not saying that we should just remove the president without going through the full two-step process, right? But I think that if now is when we can't talk about impeachment. When can we talk about impeachment? The president was implicated in a crime, and I can't imagine a scenario that could be any more ripe for a serious discussion by responsible adults. It's exactly what the framers would have wanted.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.